In a world where Africa was once only seen as a dumping ground for old trains, used technologies, and imported engineers, something historic is happening in the heart of West Africa. Something no one saw coming. Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation once ignored by global powers, has just signed a $100 billion agreement with China to build Africa's first-ever train manufacturing and transportation engineering university. Yes, you heard that right. A university not just for studying trains, but for building them, right from the soil of the motherland. Under the fearless leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, this is not just a school. It's a war declaration against dependency, against underdevelopment. In a world where Africa was once only seen as a dumping ground for old trains, used technologies, and imported engineers, something historic is happening in the heart of West Africa. Get ready as we take you deep into the vision, strategy, and global implications of this revolutionary step. Buckle up, because what's coming next is not just transportation, it's a movement. Something no one saw coming. China has committed a staggering $100 billion to build the first African train manufacturing and transportation university, not in Nigeria, not in South Africa, but right in Burkina Faso, a country that just a few years ago was battling instability and foreign interference. And the outdated idea that Africa must always import what it can create. How China is transforming education in Africa through technology transfer, not exploitation. And how this move could shake the foundations of Western influence across the continent. This is about raising a generation of African engineers, designers, innovators, and manufacturers who will no longer wait for Europe or Asia to supply them with trains, but will design, build, and export trains proudly labeled, "Made in Burkina Faso." Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation once ignored by global powers, has just signed a $100 billion agreement with China to build Africa's first-ever train manufacturing and transportation engineering university. Yes, you heard that right. A university not just for studying trains, but for building them, right from the soil of the motherland. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Africa's youngest head of state, has once again shown the world that vision, not size, makes a country great. Under the fearless leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, this is not just a school. It's a war declaration against dependency, underdevelopment, and it's Africa Vibe News that brings you the full breakdown of how this bold $100 billion partnership was signed. This isn't just news. This is Africa rewriting its own blueprint. And rather than just receive machinery, he demanded that China help build the brains behind Africa's infrastructure by educating the next generation on African soil. China is not just building rails, it's laying down the tracks for a self-reliant Africa, and Burkina Faso is the epicenter. The year is 2025, and a signature on a diplomatic table in Ouagadougou just rewrote Africa's future. Africa Vibe News has confirmed that the deal includes. But critics have always asked, what does Africa really gain? A full-fledged transportation engineering university, an attached train manufacturing plant, research labs for high-speed rail innovation, technical partnerships with Chinese universities, scholarships for 10,000 African students over 15 years, long-term job creation for over 100,000 skilled workers. This isn't just an investment, it's a statement. Behind every bold revolution is a daring leader. It was Traoré who proposed that instead of importing trains from China, Burkina Faso should manufacture them. This university is more than just concrete and classrooms. It's Traoré's blueprint to end Africa's dependence on foreign-built infrastructure, train African engineers to run African railways, create a pan-African network of industrial universities. In his words, Africa cannot keep riding trains built by others. We must manufacture the engines of our own future. China's interest in Africa is no secret. From roads in Kenya to railways in Nigeria, Beijing has spent decades building Africa's infrastructure. This new project in Burkina Faso changes the equation. For the first time, China is transferring technical knowledge, industrial training, and educational autonomy to Africa. Why Burkina Faso? Strategic location in West Africa. Traoré's strong anti-Western stance. Willingness to co-fund maintenance and training. Political stability under a nationalistic regime. For China, this is a diplomatic win. For Africa, it's an intellectual revolution. The proposed name? The Pan-African University of Train and Transportation Engineering, POT, a 400-hectare mega-campus set to open its first session in 2026. What will it include? 6 engineering faculties: mechanical, civil, electrical, rail systems, logistics, AI, and transport. 1 manufacturing plant, adjacent to the university for hands-on production. Railway simulation centers for high-speed training. Green transport research labs. Pan-African admissions, students from all 54 countries. Dual language curriculum, English, French, and Chinese, optional. AfricVibe news sources indicate that Chinese professors will work with African experts in a 3+2 exchange model. 3 years in Burkina Faso, 2 years of advanced internships in China, Japan, or Russia. This university is not an isolated project. It is the seed of an entire railway manufacturing ecosystem. Already, Burkina Faso's government has allocated land for a train assembly park, and former colonial powers to sign a mega-project that doesn't require debt traps or policy control. Started building a national iron ore processing facility to source raw materials, negotiated trade corridors with Mali and Niger. Trained 2,000 local technicians in advance. The university is expected to produce fully functional electric trains for domestic and regional use by 2030. For a country with no coastline and limited resources, this is engineering its own destiny, one locomotive at a time. With over 10,000 scholarships planned over 15 years, Burkina Faso is set to become Africa's railway brainpower capital. But as Traoré boldly replied, only the colonizer fears education. What students will learn. Before, we had to dream small. Now he dreams of building Africa's first bullet train. The reactions? Smart rail control systems. We've waited long enough to stop being beggars. AI-driven logistics. Sustainable rail technology. Transport economics and urban planning. Train production and repair from scratch. Graduates will be deployed not just in Burkina Faso, but across ECOWAS, the African Union Rail Integration Plan, and private African-owned transit companies. This isn't just education. It's a strategy to unify Africa by rail. AfricVibe News has learned that while China and Burkina Faso were building dreams, Western embassies remained silent. Why? Because for the first time, a major African nation bypassed the IMF, World Bank. European diplomats fear that if Burkina Faso succeeds, other African nations may cut off Western aid. Francophone West Africa may turn fully east. Africa may stop exporting raw minerals and instead build finished products in response. Some Western media have already begun calling the deal China's neo-colonial move. AfricVibe News correspondents on the ground in Ouagadougou interviewed citizens, students, and local workers. My son wants to be an engineer. Fatimata Z, school teacher. This university means jobs, pride, and knowledge. Issouf K, local welder. If we can build trains, we can build everything else. Amina B, student. We are building schools for ourselves. We are not borrowing trains. We are manufacturing them. We are not importing the future. We are the future. The people are not just hopeful, they are ready. This is a signal. Africa is now on track to industrial greatness already. Leaders from Mali, Guinea, Niger, and Chad have expressed interest in sending students and even co-funding satellite campuses. Imagine, Pan-African rail networks run by Pan-African engineers. Locomotives built in Burkina Faso powering transport in Congo, Togo, and Zambia, a new African industrial economy led by Black excellence. Not foreign aid. This university is a seed, but its fruit could reshape an entire continent. The university will begin intake of 3,000 students. 1,000 Chinese engineers and professors will arrive in Burkina Faso. The first train prototype will be built and tested. A regional rail expo will be held in Ouagadougou, showcasing African innovation by 2030. 20,000 graduates will be working in Africa's transport sector. Burkina Faso will export electric trains across ECOWAS. 10 other African countries may launch similar projects. AfricVibe News will continue covering this unfolding story, because this is the story of Africa rising. Brick final word. This is more than steel and wheels. This university is not just about rail. It's about freedom. Freedom from intellectual dependence. Freedom from industrial colonization. Freedom from the lie that Africa must always wait. As Captain Traoré declared, We are no longer waiting for Europe to teach us. Afric Vibe News salutes this revolutionary step. This is more than education.